Hey everybody, welcome to Café Grit. I am your host, Beth Anne Campbell, and I want to start this episode off by thanking all of you who've reached out to me. I don't do this podcast for recognition or money. God knows I have literally a handful of followers. But I put a lot of stuff out on social media, and occasionally people will reach out and let me know that in some small way I've impacted their lives, that I've made just a tiny bit of difference. And that means the world to me. I cannot even tell you. I cannot express how much appreciation I have for that. So much appreciation that I apparently can't talk. But no, somebody reached out to me recently and sent me some just really beautiful words about how I've inspired them, and they took some action with me in their head, and it really just made my whole year. I'm gonna print it. I'm gonna put it up on my vision board, and then when I'm feeling bad about myself, which I probably will after I do this podcast, I'm gonna look at it and remind myself that somebody out there, somebody's life was made a little bit better by me, and that is the best feeling in the world. So thank you. You know who you are. I love you. Thank you. So anyway, sitting here in Central Virginia, enjoying the beautiful spring-like days. It is just unbelievably lovely, and I'm just enjoying getting up in the morning in the quiet and walking with my dog, getting a coffee, having the sun on my face, no snow, and spring is just a lovely time. It really is a time of awakening and rebirth. And I just wanted to share that with you in case you're in the north, or whatever time of year you're watching this, you're experiencing shitty weather or a crappy environment. Just know someday it'll be spring. I was actually going to talk about poop, but then I thought, no, Beth Anne, you talk about poop a lot, and maybe people are tired of it. So, not everybody appreciates poop talk. Some of you do. I know you do, because we've talked about poop before, and I appreciate you for your appreciation of poop. But I decided maybe I would not tell my poop story today. But I don't know, if anybody reaches out and wants to talk about poop, or for me to tell a good poop story, just let me know. And you know what? I'll consider it a motivator. Speaking of motivator, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Ooh, I didn't even plan that segue. That was just weird. So I have a little calendar that I keep by my desk. I got it for Christmas from my wonderful husband, Sean, and it is one of those little square tearaway calendars that you take a page off every day. And this one happens to be themed working from home. So it's got little tips and tricks for working from home, some stories about working from home, and some quotes. And the quote for today, it kind of resonated with me a little bit. And I'll tell you why in a second. So I'm going to read you this quote for those of you on video. Here's a shot of my mustard colored paper. It's a lovely color. Mustard was a big color back in the 80s. I remember there was a time right around the mid 80s, and it was mustard and black was the big thing. And mustard is kind of come and gone, but I just remember walking around with a friend of mine, and every time we'd see something that was mustard colored, we would just go like ape shit. Mustard's fine. I don't know if it's my color. Probably not. Anyway, here's the quote from today. And it is by a person named Jim Rohn. I don't know who Jim Rohn is, but clearly more famous than me, because he has a quote on a calendar and Beth Anne Campbell does not. Yet. Simon Sinek says, when you're telling yourself or saying these sort of negative statements about how you can't do something or you won't or don't, you should always put a little qualifier at the end, and it kind of turns it into a positive. So I'm not on a calendar yet. Maybe we'll have a Beth Anne Campbell quote calendar. Wouldn't that be fun? It would be filled with swear words. Anyway, here's the, I know you're all just fucking read the quote, Beth Anne, and get to your thing. Okay, here we go. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. So basically, once you're motivated, you can keep that motivation. You can keep up that energy by forming a habit. And I think that this is utter bullshit. I completely disagree with this. In fact, I believe the opposite. I believe if you take action, if you develop a habit, which is action, you take action, you are going to change your brain and become more motivated more frequently and more intensely than the other way around. I believe that action spurs change in thought much more than thought spurs change in action. And I say this from a lifelong of experience in this realm of thinking about things, planning, over planning, wishing. And then when I take action, that's when things change and my brain changes too. So Jim Rohn thinks that if you think about something and get inspired, you will then take action and create a habit. And I contend the opposite is true. My favorite story about this is when I was writing my book, Where the Hell's My Bacon, available on Amazon.com. And I was writing this book for about 3 years, and I had completed less than 3 chapters. And part of it was a little bit of perfectionism on my part, which you should never do. If you're an author and you find yourself doing editing to the point of you're not making progress, just don't edit. Just stop. Just get your shit on paper and then you can edit later. And I found myself doing that, but also waiting to be motivated to write. And over the course of my life, that motivation has come, but it has been very fleeting. And when it has come, I have written, I think, some pretty cool stuff, but it's been very sporadic, like years between, because motivation is not a common thing, right? So it took me 3 years to write 3 chapters in my book. And then one day I was listening to an audiobook, Talking as Fast as I Can, by Lauren Graham, the actress from the Gilmore Girls. And Lauren was talking about her own struggles with writing. And she talked about how she had to resort to setting a timer to build a habit. And once she did that, she was able to complete her book. So she was going through exactly the same thing as I was going through. I was unmotivated, uninspired, and nothing was happening. So I took that to heart and I started following Lauren's advice. Every day I got up, I set a timer for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, some days, maybe just 20 minutes. And I wrote. And like Lauren, it didn't matter what I wrote. I just had to write. And she said sometimes, maybe she was writing in her journal. Sometimes I did that too. Sometimes I wrote a social media post. Sometimes I wrote a blog or completed a blog. Sometimes I didn't write my book, but a lot of times I did. And eventually the motivation kind of kicked in and I got on a regular cadence. And in just a few months, I had completed my book. So 3 chapters, I think there are something like 10 or 11 chapters plus recipes. So once I let go of waiting for that motivation and took action, things started to happen and my brain changed. Now, you have to keep up with the action. Otherwise, your brain is going to get a little complacent, but it definitely works. This works with things like cleaning. Sometimes I know I have to clean and I get overwhelmed and I'm just waiting for my brain to be in the right space to just tackle something. And I know that's never going to come. I'm never going to be inspired to clean. I'm just not that person. So I just have to take action. And so I take action and then I actually feel good. My brain actually changes. I feel like I've accomplished something, even though I don't like to clean, but I took action. I put a little discipline in there, right? Discipline's not a bad word. It's not a dirty word like fuck or ass or shit. Discipline is actually a good word. Sorry, just had to get some swearing in there because, it's me. So anyway, so that is my advice to you. I think as nice of a person as Jim Rohn probably is, I think you should ignore his shitty advice and don't develop a habit after you're motivated. Do the habit first, take the action first, and you will become motivated. Your brain will change and you'll thank me for it later. You'll send me a nice little note saying, Beth, your advice was so amazing. Thank you so much. You've changed my life. And I will be completely inspired and moved, and I'll cry because you're like the one person who's ever said that to me, and all the world will be better. It'll be like spring. It'll be like spring every day. So no, seriously, try it. and let me know how it works out for you. Check me out on social media. Go to my website, bethannecampbell.com. As you know, Anne with an E, if you didn't know, Bethanne Campbell. Campbell is like 2 words, Campbell. What's interesting about the name Campbell, as my husband told me once, if you're rich, you're a Campbell. If you're not rich, you're a Campbell. I think it's actually regional. I grew up in Michigan and I grew up with Campbells, but I like Campbell better because I like to pretend like I'm rich. But anyway, look me up, bethannecampbell.com. All the links to my social media are there. YouTube is where most of my stuff is these days. So I've got a channel for Café Grit. I've got a lot of shorts out there that don't go into the audio podcast. So if you're the audio podcast person, but you want to catch some of my real short, 1 minuters, go to YouTube into my Café Grit playlist. I am the Bean with 2 N's on YouTube. And let me know. Shoot me a comment. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Give me a review if you're so inclined, if you're so motivated. If you just took action. If you just took action and gave me a review and subscribed, your brain will immediately feel better. This is the advice I'm giving to you. So seriously, look me up. Give me a comment. Let me know how you are dealing with things like motivation and discipline. I'd love to hear from you. And meanwhile, thank you so much for being here, and never, ever, ever forget, you are a fucking badass. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Take it easy. Hey everybody, thank you for stopping by Café Grit, where the moxie is fresh, the passion cold brewed, and everything is served with a heaping side of mojo. For more Café Grit episodes, please check out bethannecampbell.com/Café Grit. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving it a rating or review on YouTube, Buzzsprout, or your favorite streaming platform. I'll be forever grateful, and in return, I'll wish upon you copious amounts of bacon, your favorite hot beverage, and of course, pie. I'd love to connect and hear about your grit experiences as well. Please go to bethannecampbell.com for links to all my social media. Café Grit is a product of Beth Anne Campbell, LLC, all rights reserved. Thanks again, and remember, you are a badass. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Take it easy.